Hello, and welcome to a lesson which guides you through Alfred Lord Tennyson's Charge of the Light Brigade. I'm Dr. Borrow, and I'm going to talk you through this poem. You need to click on the link to follow along as I talk about the poem, and you need a copy of the poem to annotate with you. Okay, let's get going. So a little bit of context for the poem to start off with. Alfred Lord Tennyson was Poet Laureate. This is significant. The Poet Laureate was somebody who's appointed by the Queen to be a poet for the country. This means that he's very unlikely to be critical of the war that he was writing about, or the country, or the government. So we know this is not going to be a protest poem. This is not going to be somebody saying how awful war is. He was inspired to write the poem when he read a newspaper article in the Times. So this is a poem about an actual event that happened in the 19th century, middle of the 19th century, and he read this article, was so inspired by it that he sat down and wrote the poem. And the battle happened during the Crimean War, which is a war that was fought between the Russian Empire and an alliance of the Ottoman Empire, France, Britain and Sardinia. If you click on the link in the middle of this slide, you can watch an animated history of the Charge of the Light Brigade. It's very interesting, and it tells you all about this specific battle in the middle of the Crimean War called the Battle of Balaclava. So take yourself off there, have a listen, and then come back, please. Thank you. Welcome back. So, what we're going to think about now, I'm going to ask you to click on the link here and follow it and listen to the poem. It's quite a slow reading of the poem, and it's got images that go with it. What I'd like you to do, think about as you listen to this, is what are your first impressions of the poem? What do you think this is about? Read along as you watch and listen, so you sort of immerse yourself in the poem. Welcome back. So here's what I noticed when I listened. This poem is full of imperatives, full of people doing things and being told to do things. And there isn't much in the way of questioning. Nobody questions their orders, nobody questions anything. They just get on and do. It's an active poem. It's not a passive, it's not thought, it's not a poem that thinks, it's a poem about doing. There's lots and lots of repetition in the poem, which sort of brings home the size of the task that the Light Brigade the task that the Light Brigade faced as they charged the Russian guns, the number of the guns, the distance they covered, the number of men that were there. It sort of gets the magnitude of this whole battle it sharpens the magnitude of this whole battle in your mind. There's some religious language in there which suggests that the Light Brigade was fighting for God and country. They had right on their side. And there's also a sense of movement. Tennyson takes you through the poem. He takes you towards those guns and then he brings you back again. And there's a real sense of vitality and movement as you listen to the poem. So they're my thoughts. You might want to jot those down as well as your own. But what we really want is what were your first impressions about this. So make yourself some notes. Okay. Next up, what I'd like you to do is listen to me as I annotate the poem. Keep your copy of the poem in front of you and annotate along with me. You'll have to keep pausing the recording so that you can annotate. But you just need to click on this link and there's a video. The sound quality is not brilliant, but it's all right. You can do it. And what you're thinking about, you need to be clear about Tennyson's meaning and the methods he uses to convey this meaning to his reader. What's he saying about power or conflict? It's conflict, really. Add a bit of power in there. What's he saying about it? And what methods does he use to convey this to you? Welcome back. So what I'd like you to do now is look at this image. It's a painting of the Charge of the Light Brigade. And I want you to think about how you could annotate this using the poem. So if you think I've got flashed all their sabres bare, they've all got their swords there, brandishing their swords. There's all of the cannon smoke, so you could have cannons to the left of them, cannons to the right of them. Brave 600, there's masses of them there. So I want you to pause this and just spend a little time looking at the image and thinking, right, okay, which quotations would I put on here and where would they go? And then I want you to have a think about, welcome back, I want you to have a think about which most effectively for you conveys the atmosphere of the battle. Is it the poem or the painting? Which one works best for you? Is it the sound and all of that sound patterning that Tennyson uses, or is it the images that you can see in front of you? Make yourself some notes. Okay. So, last thing to do today is I want you to give yourself 20 minutes and see how many points you can accumulate in 20 minutes. I want you to make sure that you tackle a point from each coloured box, so you're thinking about meaning, context, structure and language. Use short, direct quotations to extend your ideas. So make yourself some notes. Sit there with a piece of paper in front of you and think, how is this poem story like? Well, it tells a story of this battle. And it tells a story of what's happening and where these people are going and what happens to them. So you spend 20 minutes now and then come back. Thank you. So finally, just if you really want to stretch yourself, if you're reaching for the top, those very top grades, there's a very long presentation here. It's about 35 minutes or just over 35 minutes of a teacher talking about doing some real high level analysis of the poem. So if you're thinking, I want to get the very best mark I possibly can, and I really want to get inside the charge of the Light Brigade, then watch this video. Thanks for listening. I hope this has been helpful for you. And I'll speak to you soon.